Good morning. Good morning. Well, good afternoon now. Good afternoon, Happy. I am excited to be back, Gail. It's been a while since we've been live. We took off for the summer. So I am excited to be back today. This is Karen here, your favorite virtual assistant. And then we have, of course, my co host, Gail. So, Gail, you kick it off.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. It is, as Karen said, really, really great to be back after a break. We
Mhm.
missed you guys. We missed having our
Yes.
conversations. And that is why we thought today we'd start off with an interesting topic: how to know if someone is bad for your mental health. And that's because Karen and I, while we were off, we were having some very interesting conversations about toxic people and these people that were just stressing us. So, how do you know somebody is toxic, for example, or somebody is bad for your mental health? These are people who they're always negative. They don't have anything good to say about anybody or any situation. Whenever they step into a room, you can feel it. You can feel all of the energy, the negative energy just falling all over you. And drama follows this person or these people wherever they go. You know that when you see this person, you're going to be upset. But the thing about a toxic person or somebody who is going to affect you mentally in a bad way is that I don't think you see it immediately. You
Hmm.
don't see it immediately. It kind of evolves over a period of time of you interacting with this person. So when we get into this conversation, Karen is going to start us off. But before we do, I forgot to say, if you are joining us live, please put live in the chat. And of course, let us know where you're joining from. And as we go through this conversation, share your experiences with us if you've been involved or have had interaction with somebody and then you found out, oh crap, this person is really bad for my mental health. So Karen has some very, very interesting stories and she's going to start us off. So Karen, out of the 10,000,001 stories that you have, can you please start us off and let us know, give us an example of a time where you were dealing with somebody and you knew at the end of the day, you know what, this person is really, really bad for my mental health. And I know you have stories at work and you have personal stories as well, because it could be professional or personal. So
Right.
let's get the ball rolling. And I have 3,000,000,001 stories, but I'll let you go first.
Okay.
You
All
share your
right.
stories first.
When it comes to the toxic, right? Some like we all know the straightforward signs, right? The disrespectfulness, the yelling, the
Mm-hmm.
verbal. Those is it should be obvious, so we're not gonna dive into those. But more about the subtle ones, the ones that you don't like. You're like, okay, well, they being toxic, or this saying something out of line, or it's just me projecting something or triggering something, because that could be a
Mm-hmm.
confusion as well, because we could be a situation. For me, it could be a situation. I've been in situations where the person necessarily didn't yell, they wasn't rude or mean or anything, but they said little things, that the little backhanded compliments, right? Or the little microaggression, passive aggressive things that you're like, okay,
Mm-hmm. You're
why are
throwing your
you
shade. Throwing your
right?
shade.
Like, are they being at some level? I mean, I'm not perfect, but I'm sure I was higher, more toxic earlier in my years, because
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't aware of certain things, right? Certain behaviors. So, especially me, I had in jobs, I had micromanage managers, and those people that like to poke and mess around, do things to provoke you.
Mm-hmm.
And then they play the victim, or they play oh, I didn't know you were this kind of person. I thought you was a nice girl, when you respond a
Mm-hmm.
certain way. And that kind of leaves you as an employee at the time. For me, was like, um, I am a nice person, but they do little things to, so you looking like the bad, like I was looking like the bad person, but they do little
Mm-hmm.
microaggression behaviors, or do little things where they might tell something that you did wrong to the supervisor or to somebody higher up. So
Mm-hmm.
then ultimately you end up looking like, and I end up responding a certain way, then I'm looking like I'm the bad person. I'm the person with the issue.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I have been in situations that work like that, the little microaggressions, little backhanded. poking you to make you want to, like to make you react. And then
Mhm.
when you react after being poked and trying not to, trying to be subtle, trying to be respectful, then I would react. And sometimes my reaction
Mhm.
was, "Oh, I didn't know you was that kind of person. I thought you was a nice girl. I thought you was," but
Yeah.
they don't. I feel like sometimes depending on who you're working under, they like to play blind eye to certain things. And they
Mhm.
might see certain employees are the kind of employees that are toxic to the environment, right? Always nagging, always coming in late, always want to start a fight, always want to poke, um, and then when you stand up for yourself, look at me. When I stand up for myself, then I'm looking like I'm the bad person. Because I remember one instance when I was working in a nursing home years ago, and working in like when I came in, being new coming into the environment, right? Everybody know everybody already on the floor. All the nursing assistants know the nurses already. They have a certain build relationships. So me coming in, they'll give me the higher, heavier assignments. The assignment
Mhm.
where nobody wanted to take. The things that the assignments gonna break your back assignments. Those
Mhm.
assignments, right?
Yeah.
And and then I'm the type of person when I started to look like, wait, why do I have 20 heavy or 10 or 12 heavy patients that you have like 8 people on your list, and this one have 12, and this one, everybody has less, and I have the heaviest. And when I say something like, I would like to know why do I have the most people and everybody else have the leases, it was more like, oh, but that's the assignment that you have, right? And I'd be like, well, can we split some of these heavy people? Like, why they have? I mean, like
Mhm.
why do I have the heavy people? Then I will go downstairs. If the nurse don't fix it, I will go downstairs and speak to the supervisor. And I would be
Mhm.
like, excuse me, this is my issue. This is what's going on. And sometimes the supervisor there would be like, well, that's the nurse on the shift, so that what the nurse says is what goes.
Mhm.
And me, I was not going for that. I would be like, listen, either we gonna fix this, or I'm gonna go home because I know
Yeah.
already what's gonna be. Either y'all gonna fix it or y'all not gonna do it.
Mhm.
So it's
Mhm.
not fair to. I don't have a problem doing the work. I just have a problem the way this work is being distributed.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
You know?
But and then when you try to stand up for yourself, or even
Yeah.
before we get there, when you try to figure out, okay, so what's really going on here? Let's have a conversation. Let's communicate. And then it seems as though you're the only one with a problem. Why are you the only one with a problem?
Yeah.
What is
Right.
wrong with you, Karen? Why can't you just handle your
Right.
20 people?
Right.
Come
Right.
on, come on. That's not an issue. But it
Right.
is. But it is. And I know, as you shared, over a period of time, it will wear you down. And it is
Yeah.
going to affect you mentally, if not physically as well. Because remember, when I shared my other story, I tend to not only have, I tend to have physical things show up, like I have rashes, I get migraines, I get,
Wow.
physically ill
Right.
when I'm dealing with somebody that ends up being, they're not really good for my mental health. I actually had a manager, as you were sharing your story, remembered. I had a manager who would say the harshest things. And when you try to respond, the response was always, I am not responsible for how you feel when I tell you things. And I'm like, what the hell? Hello? Okay, you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you. And after a while, you tell yourself, you know what? I am going to find a job somewhere else because this is not
Mm-hmm.
working. This is not working. And you talk to your team, and yes, they have issues with the manager, but nobody wants to come forward. So again, it
Mm-hmm.
looks like, oh, nobody else is saying anything. You're the only person who has a problem with what I say and how I say it. And it was
Mm-hmm.
disrespectful. And it was
Right.
disrespectful. And I think that is why, too, in a job, sometimes people take a while before they decide to stand up for themselves and draw that line, that boundary line in the sand. Because
Mm-hmm.
A, it is only me. B, nobody else is saying anything. C, is this really how it is? Or am I imagining things? And then you doubt yourself. And then you say, oh,
Right.
it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. I'm fine.
Right.
I'm fine. That's how
Right.
they are.
Right.
No, no,
Yeah.
no.
No.
Because after
Yeah.
you internalize all of that negativity and all of that toxicity, then you
Mm-hmm.
come into work one day with a, I don't want to exaggerate, maybe you have a knife, maybe you have a gun, and you go postal and you shoot everybody, and people say, wow, I never thought Gail would do that. She was so quiet.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all of these things that add up. that
Yes.
make you want to go
Right.
postal,
Right.
and then you
Right.
have to, and then the police have to come for you when it could have been, when it could have been
That's,
avoided, when it could have been
yeah.
avoided. So, our what we want to do today with this conversation, and we talked about it a lot before we decided on the topic and everything, is that we want everybody to understand. Think of yourself first. Your mental health is so, so important.
Right.
And when your gut tells you that somebody is doing something to you that is not right, for whatever reason, you need to act on it. Don't just sit down and not act on it. And one of the things we also wanted to talk about was these subtle hints that you get that you may not otherwise see. So it's not like Karen said, it's not like the physical abuse, it's not somebody hitting you, they're not, pushing you around. It is more subtle. It's like the words and their behavior towards you, which is touchy feely. It's touchy
Yes.
feely.
Right. No, I agree, Gail. Not only that, I find that sometimes it's easier to spot certain behaviors with people like we work with, right? But sometimes we
Mm-hmm.
can miss the relation with those intimate relationships, whether it could be a friend or a family or love or a
Yes,
relationship,
with
like
your
a
family,
romantic
with your
one.
family, because we tend to expect
With,
more from our family. Why?
yes.
No, why would you do that to me? So let's talk about family,
Yeah,
Karen.
yeah. So I mean, listen, even when it comes to a little further, like emotional wellness and mental health wellness, to me, they go hand in hand. And I say why?
Mm-hmm.
Because ultimately, right, I shouldn't allow somebody else's behaviors and bad display behavior affect me mentally and physically, right? I
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't. But I think that sometimes when it's somebody so close, we tend to take in or allow certain things a little bit longer because
Mm-hmm.
we intimately love, have a more deeper love or emotional connection to the person.
Mm-hmm.
At least for me, I could say that's true, right? But just even with the passive aggressiveness, right? Even if somebody's that say you might have, because we're not perfect. Like I'm not perfect, girl. Sometimes my tone could be a little off, or the way I come off to sometimes could be a little not very, not disrespectful, but it comes off to certain people disrespectful. I could
Mm-hmm.
understand that about myself, right? But one thing I don't do is the passive aggressiveness thing. Like if you have a problem
Mm-hmm.
with something that I might have said, I really would appreciate if you could tell me because maybe I don't realize that I'm doing it. Sometimes
Yeah.
I,
And
sometimes
you're doing
I,
it, and you're smiling at me, Karen. So you don't know you're doing it.
sometimes I don't.
And I go, okay, Karen, let's talk about
Right,
this. You're smiling at me,
right.
but no, no, no.
Right, sometimes I may not be realizing
Ah,
that even being condescending or being kind
yes,
of,
yes. That is a
dismissive,
very good point.
right?
Yes. You may not
Dismissive.
even
'Cause,
know.
yeah, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
we're not aware of that because we innately been doing this. So we're not
Mm-hmm.
aware of those display behaviors, and to other people, it might come off being disrespectful. But I think the people that do the passive aggressiveness thing, where I don't like what you did or I don't like what you said, but you're not speaking that out, it becomes a
Mm-hmm.
then you mad at me and I don't even know why you mad at me. Like, how does
Yep,
that
yep.
even work? Right? I
Yeah.
think it's only good to say that. Like, hey, you ignoring me or you're not or you acting like to say funny, right? Acting funny with me. But I don't know why you acting funny because to me I just said what I wanted, what I wanted to say or what I intended to say. It may not have hit the way I thought it was gonna hit. It might come off disrespectful. That's what the passive
Mm-hmm.
aggressive thing. I don't really like that. I feel like people should be up forward and straight, even if y'all don't
I
agree
agree.
on the way things are being said or what was
Mm-hmm.
said. Because people, realistically, we're not always going to agree on everything, but we can
Right.
always, okay, that's your point. This is my point. We respect each other, and that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay too. Like I don't have to agree with you. You don't always have to agree with me, but at least we could go coexist. And I hear your point, you hear my point, and it's good. Ain't no problem here. Right?
Right. So I want to just share, in case people were wondering, some warning signs that may kind of
Mm-hmm.
suggest you could be dealing with someone who's bad for your mental health. And
Mm-hmm.
so this is like you feel like you're being manipulated into something you don't want to do. You're constantly confused by the person's behavior. And I know for me, sometimes you are confused, like what is the rationale behind this behavior? Is it X, is it A, is it B, and they're not consistent. You feel like you deserve an apology, but it never comes. You feel like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this person did me something, I know that what they did to me wasn't right, but they
Right.
never say they're sorry. You always have to
Right.
defend yourself. Always defending yourself. Whatever you do, you must be saying, okay, I did it because of this reason. You're always uncomfortable around them, and then when you're in their presence, and I know this is a big one for me, you feel
Mm-hmm.
bad about yourself. You're not confident. You're always, second guessing, and
Mm-hmm.
you feel inadequate because they keep tearing you down. When you're having a conversation with them, they're tearing you down. It could also be somebody who always needs your attention. They're very needy. And you get tired because that saying that you can only pour from a you need to pour from your a full cup. So you need to have your cup organized first before you can help somebody. And then this person
Mm-hmm.
always needs your attention, and drama. Always drama. I have such a big list of people who, like, whenever I see them, even in a WhatsApp message, I'm saying to myself, do I open this message? Because I know it's gonna be drama. And the last two things we talked about before, they don't respect your boundaries. Your boundaries mean nothing to them. And it's like they're manipulative. It's always about what they want
Right.
rather than how they can help you get what you
Right.
want. It's like, trying to find that win-win situation.
Right.
And as I was thinking through a lot of the conversations you and I had before we came to this live, it was true because I wanted to think back. Like, were there signs that I missed before? Is there anything I could have done to nip this situation in the bud with this particular toxic person before it got way out of
Other
hand?
hand.
And I would think that for me, it was not stepping up earlier. I don't like rocking the boat. I don't like conflict. I would say, oh no, if that's what you want to do, fine. And then I would go home and I'd be quarreling with myself. You could imagine that. But I never
Right.
said anything. I never
Mm-hmm.
had a voice. And I know that is why that led me to pay more attention to customer service in retail. Because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people who work in retail, especially the frontline customer facing teams, they are afraid to have the tough conversations with their managers, who in some case see them as just minimum wage workers with no feelings and no opinions and nothing, and they go to work in these toxic environments, and it's really
Mm-hmm.
bad for their mental health. So that is what led me into, training and coaching and stuff, because you need to have a voice, and you need
Yeah.
to draw that boundary, and then you need to be a Karen and call people out. So, Karen, share some experiences where you had to call people out. And I'm still working with Karen people. She just needs a little bit of refining. She tends to think it and think she's a work in progress, and I'm working with her
You
on that.
know.
But, Karen, if you could tell us about a time where you had to draw your line in the sand, like really draw it.
I mean, definitely in that situation at work, I really had to draw the sand, right? Like, I was not gonna be. You're not gonna break my back. I'm sorry. Like, I understand we gotta be here to work, and I understand that we're here to help and assist. But I think it needs to be fair all the way around the board. But even on a personal level, one thing that I came to realize, right, for myself, is when situation happens, the way this is what I do that helps me identify if it's a trigger or just something, or maybe right here, maybe it's this person being kind of disrespectful in a way. Right?
Mm-hmm,
The way
mm-hmm,
for me, this is what I do. So when somebody says something to me or that I think it might be deemed disrespectful, right? I first like to analyze if this a trigger, because sometimes people could say things that could trigger you from a past experience somebody might have said to you. So for me,
mm-hmm,
it's like, is this a trigger, right? Or is this person actually being disrespectful?
mm-hmm,
Um, even when it comes to when I was this job that I had, my mother had passed, and I had asked for the day off because I had to do funeral arrangements, and the employer stated to me, no, I couldn't take the day off because I didn't have no PTO and I just had taken off a week due to her passing. And they said no, I couldn't take the day off. No, they said no,
And
you're
this
not
is the
taking
day
the
of
day
the
off.
funeral. What day
This
did
is
you
this
want
is
to
like
take off?
days. This is like
This is
a day days leading up to the funeral. You know, the funeral setup
you
and
had a lot to
arrangement, all of
do.
that. So I had a lot to do. Yeah, it was a lot that I had to do. So I asked for the time off, and they tell me no. And of course, and I replied back to the email to the employer, and I said, "Well, sir, I'm not asking you. I'm taking off very nicely, you know, very
I'm sure it
nicely
was very
written,
nice, Karen.
very nicely
We'll talk
written,
about that offline. Mm-hmm.
very nicely written." I said to him, I understand that I might not have no PTO, but honestly, I'm not asking you that I'm taking off. I'm courteously telling you that I'm taking off because to
But they
me it
knew
was
that your mother had died, right? So this is
right.
not like your fourth cousin. I'm just saying, this is
Yeah,
not like some
this
distant
is
relative.
somebody
This was
really.
your
Yeah,
mom that you were close to. Like, okay.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
And
And for
they knew
me,
this.
yeah,
They
and
knew
they
this.
knew
Okay.
this. They
Mm-hmm.
was aware of that. And for me, it was like that's when I do this. That's when I do the line, Gail. I was like, you know what? It's either I will not go, and I will never forgive myself for not going, right? Or take this and accept what's being told to me. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
good at just accepting things, right? Just accepting things like that. So I told him so I ended up taking the day without pay, and I told him I'm okay taking it without pay, you know, because it is what it is. Um, but I did say that was my line. Like this have to be. I understand we need to. I would never tell anybody what to do when it comes to their finance and how to survive, right? But for me, certain things I would not do. Especially when it comes to something that's very important. When it comes to family, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
certain things in life for me is more important than money and more important than working. Because we all know when it comes to employers, right? Not speaking bad on employers or anything, that if something happens to you, you're a replacement, right? You're going to be replaced. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to devalue myself for certain things because I need a job. I mean, there's jobs that you can always find jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So when that comes to that situation with my mom, and at that time, I chose to be like, you know what, sir, I understand what you're saying, but what I'm telling you is I'm taking off. I'm not asking you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And what
And
was your
whatever the
response?
consequences were, I was ready to accept them. If that was me being written up, me being fired, whatever they were, Gail, I was okay with that. And I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we have to make strong decisions, and
Mm-hmm.
regardless of the consequences that they're going to be, because certain
Yeah.
decision I might for you might be for me that would have been like I would have, you know how much guilt I would have had.
But was that a reasonable response? Like your mom has died. I don't
Yeah,
understand the response. Like how could they have said no?
I mean, that's company policy, according to them, it's company policy, and it is. I understand company policies. I get that. I'm not disputing that, but I know for me, I would doubt. That's what I do the line. You're not
Yeah.
going to tell
But
me. You're not going
I
to
am
tell me I can
just
go.
so
You
yeah,
cannot
yeah.
tell me that I was not going to go.
I
I'm
am
sorry.
so glad that you were responding by
Sorry.
email and not in person because we would not be having
Mm-mm.
this live today because you might have been not with
Yes.
us.
Yes.
Because that is a very emotional conversation, and I'm trying to
Yeah.
put myself in your shoes and say, if that was me and it was face to face with the manager, I can't swear that I would have been able to survive that without losing it.
Yeah.
And culture and policy is an interesting thing because I work with an organization, and here in the Caribbean, our families are very, very close knit. So you might grow up with a grandmother or an aunt, and that person could be like your mother. You are
Right.
that close.
Right.
Your cousins are more like your brothers and sisters. Our
Mm-hmm.
families are very, very close knit. And I remember I had an aunt that had died, and she had raised me, so she's like my mom. And
Mm-hmm.
when I try to get the time off, they're telling me, well, it's not your mother. You get X amount of days for your mother or father. Come, if it's sister or brother, she's just your aunt, so you can't get
Mm-hmm.
the time off.
Right.
And I'm trying to say, but I understand what you're saying, but this person in my life has been like
Mm-hmm.
my mother. So in the Caribbean, that's how we work. That's our culture. How can you come and tell me? Because it wasn't a Caribbean company I was working for. It was a Canadian. It's like, how can you tell me no? So it was interesting that in that case, policy trumped people. And then on the flip
Yes.
side, I have worked with a company which said, "Oh well, your mom," because my mom did pass away. They said, "Oh, your mom has passed away. It's 5 days, but we'll give you 10 because we knew you were very close. You have lots of things
Hmm.
to organize with the funeral, and it really doesn't make any sense you coming to work because you're not going to be functioning, and we don't want
Right.
you here. And we're giving you requests and trying to talk to you, and it's not working." And I
Right.
will never ever forget that. So where
Hmm.
people trumped policy. But I know for
Yeah.
a lot of organizations, policy trumps people,
Teacher
and they say,
people.
"Oh, that's the policy. That's the policy." Yeah, the
Yeah.
policy is there as a guideline. Is not is it written in stone? Will somebody kill you if you let Karen go to her mom's funeral? If you give her 2 days, give her a few days off to manage what needs to be managed? Like how does it work? So it's interesting, and you use that too as a benchmark because how somebody behaves in a crisis situation tends to be
Yes.
their go-to behavior. And for me, the writing is on the wall. Oh, this is how you're behaving after I've given you my blood, sweat, and tears as an employee. Well, yes, I will quietly. They talk about this quiet quitting. I'm going to quietly quit first, and then I'm going to ease on out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean that's true. I agree with you. Sometimes policy is policy, but people trumps policy. For example, when during that whole situation that was going on at the time, I wanted to take off to help my sister, right? At the time. But I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know. I thought that if you get, I think it was FMLA or time off or something. I think it was FMLA. I think I didn't. I was not aware of that. I thought FMLA applies to family, sister, mother, father, and close knit, but it doesn't apply to sisters. I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
aware. I didn't even know that.
It's
I
so
always thought that it
crazy.
applied. When I asked the HR and I wanted to
Yes.
maybe take FMLA temporarily, I think it was FMLA,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And I was informed then that that only applies to mother and father and children,
Yeah.
not to
Yeah.
siblings. And it's like that was mind blowing to me because I was like, "Well, isn't sister close? Like, isn't this a
Mm-hmm.
sister somebody that you should be able to take off?" And like I was I wasn't aware of that at that time, but I just
Yeah.
figured let me just say it because
Well,
anybody.
you were confused.
Yeah, I
See,
really
people
was
do things to
confused.
confuse you.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
confused about that, but yeah, I think like toxicity just applies to all when you deal with people in general. There's always depending on who the person is, there is going to be some level of toxicity if and depending on who you are, right? If you have not taken the time to know yourself, like even for me, Gail, the way the person that I was years ago, girl, is not the girl that I am today. Because
Mm-hmm.
me taking the time to really understand myself better, and I realize the older I'm getting, the more understanding myself. Because a lot of the things that back then that I would try to pull against, like, certain maybe something innate things that who I am as a person, right? I would try to like fight against the grain because I always felt like, oh, that's a bad quality. But the older that I'm getting, I'm starting to realize to accept those qualities, right? Not in a toxic way, but in a positive way. Now, what you do with those qualities is up to you, right? But I'm starting to. That's one thing that I realized. The older I'm getting, the more I'm starting to really understand myself, and the more I put work to just heal certain things about myself, certain traumas, and seek
Mm-hmm.
therapy and do the self work. I'm starting to understand certain holes, certain missing personalities
Mm-hmm.
that I was toxic myself,
Yeah.
right? But I think that
Mm-hmm.
we also have to be able to do a self audit, right? And I tell you this, I feel like this: no matter how much work you put onto yourself, no matter how much self work, no matter how much therapy you take, I feel like when you're in a good space, it's easier to not display certain behaviors that we trying to work through. But when we are put in those situations, right, that really gonna have to show up, it would display
Mm-hmm.
if what you're trying to work through have has actually been effectively successful. You'll be able to deal and maneuver and pivot if you have to, or you might have to go back to the drawing board to consider why is this behavior still displaying, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I personally think I say that because I had a situation where I normally would have handled it a whole nother level and I handled it in a different way. So that tells
Mm-hmm.
me that what I'm doing is actually effectively working for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's actually helping me become a better individual. So I
Yeah.
think that's something that we do have to consider too. I mean, I'm just gonna be real. It's easy to say we heal kumbaya when we all good and happy and got smiles on our face, honey.
Yes. And
Right?
kumbaya with a capital K. Yes. We're all gonna hold
Right?
hands and say kumbaya.
Right.
And that
But
doesn't
when
work
you
for you, Karen. That doesn't work.
but when you be in test of the patients that you are trying to work on, that's
And
when you
forget
know.
kumbaya. So forget that kumbaya.
That's when
So
you
I'm
know,
taking
okay.
my, remember when we talked about, I said, I'm taking my earrings out. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. I have to take my earrings out. But that would have
I'm
been in my
telling
other
you.
life.
I'm
But
telling
it
you.
is true. But we're all a work in progress. For me, it was
Yes.
about healing and growing. I definitely agree with you there. It was about healing and growing and coming to that space of, okay, I'm going to accept me for who I am. I'm not a bad person. I'm not perfect. But let me see how I can keep me but still flex to the other person. So, for
Right.
example, I know that I am very intense when it comes to time and I'm very organized. So, if you tell
You
me,
are
Karen will tell
girl.
you. If Karen says we're meeting at 12:30, I'll say, okay, I'm going to log in at 12:15 and let me
You
see her
sure
sweating.
are. You are,
Sweating, but
Gail.
I don't care. Karen, I'm just going to be early and we're going to do our test. And so I'm very time driven and I'm very organized. So when
Yeah.
Karen says we need to meet, what's the agenda? What's the
You
agenda?
better
What
no,
are we
you
talking
better than
about?
me. You keep me
Because
in tune. You help me
I
stay.
but that is how I am as a person, and I was criticized about those qualities so much in the past. And oh, you're too intense. And then
Yes.
I would try to say, okay, well, we don't need an agenda. It's okay. Let's just talk. And then three
Right.
hours later, we're still talking. And
Nothing.
time, you don't get back time, and I don't have the time to waste.
Right.
So I had
Right.
to step back and say, okay, am I a bad person because I like being early? Am I a bad person because I like to be organized and know what we're talking about with an agenda?
Right.
Am I a bad person because I like to know what's going on. I like to be in control. Like I don't like surprises. I don't like spontaneity. Don't surprise me. Don't, it's not gonna work.
See,
It's not gonna work.
this is what me and
So,
you are
but then if
different.
I had to do then is decide. So what I've done, my thing is people who don't respect my time, people who don't respect the fact that I need to have an agenda or I
Hmm.
need to know, I need to be able to organize my life. If you
Right.
keep pushing me and every time we set a time you're late, there's
Hmm.
no respect. I have to draw my line. I have to draw
Right.
that boundary and I
Right.
cannot. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Even with your family, because sometimes family
Hmm.
for sure disrespect you because you're family.
Right.
No,
You.
oh, you, I was waiting for
Hmm.
you and you didn't come. Or if I don't see you by 5 minutes, I'm sorry because I'm busy. So I had to draw lines in the sand for myself and then communicate. Try to communicate.
Right.
Me, what? Okay, so if I meet Karen for the first time, I'm gonna say, okay, Karen. So let me just tell you a little bit about me. I don't like being late. If we're gonna chat, we need an agenda. I'm not too harsh. I like jokes. I'll like some fun, but I don't like spontaneity because I like to be organized. I like that if you want
Hmm.
something done, I have the time to do it rather than you call me and say, okay, Gail, in 5 minutes, I need XYZ. How is it going to happen? And before, instead of me saying, okay, Karen, like seriously, I would say, oh, it's no problem. It's no problem. And then I'm there scrambling and I'm sweating
Right.
and I'm breaking out in
Hmm.
hives. And so learning to accept me, this is who I am.
Yes.
I share, Karen, this is who I am. And I say that with love. And let's see how we can work together. Tell me a little bit too about you. And I will flex to you. I know you're not
Right.
perfect. I'm not perfect. But the hardest lesson I have ever had to learn in all of my bleep bleep years, because I can't tell you my age, form is standing up for yourself, having that voice. And people watch you. I've also had to learn that even when I don't think somebody is watching me, somebody's watching me. So when I was a
Yes.
manager, I had these two fantastic young people, and they were millennials that I was leading. And every time I went to engage with the senior manager, they were watching, and they would see how we interacted. But one of the issues we had sometimes was that
Hmm.
we prepare the budget, we do a lot of research, the budget would go through the window, we do all kind of fantabulous stuff, and then when the budget or the money spent became an issue, you'd be thrown under the bus.
Yeah. Mm.
And that was toxic.
Yeah,
Imagine that
definitely.
keeps happening 3 or 4 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that, as an older, more mature person, millennials just tell you as it is. And they were saying, no, you know what? If you don't handle this situation, we're out. We're out. We cannot
Mm-hmm.
keep working so hard and doing what everybody wants us to do, go above and beyond, and then we keep getting thrown under the bus. So as you go along, there's a lot of life lessons, and sometimes you need other people to call you out. So I
Yeah.
am really good at calling you. I'll call you out in love. I'll say, okay, you know what? This is not working. These are the reasons it's not
Mm-hmm.
working. I have to be true to myself. I've tried everything, but this is where we're at, and I'm very, very sorry, but it's not gonna work.
Man, that's
You know,
true. I
and that's
mean,
what we need to do too. Like so. I'm a divorcee. I'm sorry I didn't come to that realization a little early. I would just say, "Oh, it's okay, dear. It's okay, darling. I love you." And then I'd be there suffering. So life is one big learning. It's a circle of learning. It's a circle of growing.
yes.
It is a time where I believe, and I know you believe the same way, Karen, that we are here in it together to help each other, which is why we came
Mm-hmm.
up with these Sunday chats. How can we
Yes.
help? What are we going through? That let's share our experience and see if somebody else is going through with it. How can we help each other? Because life is not meant to be a struggle, really. It's meant to be a struggle, yeah, but let's handle the struggle and
Right.
let's handle the struggle together. And sometimes you think you're going through something all alone and you think, oh my God, like, and then you realize, oh shoot, Karen went through the same thing, but I never was
Mm-hmm.
brave enough to share my personal story. And that's another thing. We don't like sharing personal stories because we don't want people in our business. Me, I
Yeah,
really don't care.
exactly.
I don't really care. I would tell you my age, but anything else, I really don't care.
No, I
Because
agree.
it's by
Yeah.
sharing that you realize, oh wow, and you don't know when your words will help somebody else going through
Mm-hmm.
something and give them the hope and the motivation and even the inspiration they need to hold on one more day, 1 more hour, one more
Mm-hmm.
moment, because your words help that person,
Words are
and it was
powerful.
exactly what they needed
Mm-hmm.
at that time, and you may not even have known.
No, I agree with
So,
you, Gail.
yeah, do you
Words
agree?
are
You
powerful.
you
Yeah,
have to
I
agree with me. You're my
agree.
co-host. You don't have a choice.
No, no, no. Words are powerful. You know what's funny? I think this is why we actually work well because Gail is more organized than I am. If you know me, Gail, there's certain things I'm organized, but when it comes to certain things, Gail, but I can't really. I'm like, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah,
Here we go, here we go,
yeah,
here we go.
yeah,
And
yeah.
sometimes I know I'll be driving her nuts. I know I
Yeah,
do
she's kind
because
of like, okay, so this is September, and we need to know who we're gonna have talking with us in November. And I'm saying, in November? This is September, Karen. Like what? So and we laugh,
yeah,
but she's intense in certain ways. I'm intense in certain ways, but
yeah,
we know at the end of the day, we have the same goal. We have the same goal. We're both working
yeah,
together towards the same goal, and our goal is to make sure that our conversations are meaningful, they're
right,
valuable, but we can still
exactly,
have fun and
yeah,
grow our community together. So
right,
Karen is
yeah,
gonna Karen now is gonna check the comments because for some reason with my tech today I can't see
yeah.
comments. But
We gotta
Karen, can you
fix
just check some
that. Okay, so
comments and
let's
you can put them up
see.
on the screen? We
Hi
have one, I
there.
think, from Andrea. So hi to
She
everybody here, by the
says,
way. Andrea is saying, press my
yes.
buttons. And then when I snap, the reaction is, oh, I thought you were a Christian. My
Wait, where
response
is
is, yeah,
that?
I'm
Did I miss
saved,
it?
but
Oh,
I'm
right
not
here.
stupid.
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah. Press the button.
Andrea, you are my sister friend in that. People think because you are a Christian that you are dumb, you don't have a voice, you take whatever they give you.
Right.
So, Andrew, you know what my response is? You're not going to stop me from seeing my Jesus today. You're trying, but I am going to see my
You
Jesus,
don't want to know what
and
I
you're
would
not
say.
going to stop me from seeing my Jesus. So, yeah, Andrea,
No,
that is a
yeah.
good one. People will do that to
Yep.
you if they
People
think
would, yeah. That's
you don't
gaslighting
see
too, you know?
anything. That is gaslighting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's gaslighting for you to tell somebody, especially after you was disrespectful and I don't
Mm-hmm.
understand that. When somebody disrespectful and then be surprised of your reaction. Like you got some nerve to
Correct.
not be
That's
like,
because,
how are you
do you know when
surprised?
that happens, Karen? Do you know when that happens? Because
Please
the
don't
person
want
is
to.
special. The person is special. We have lots of special people. They're just special.
Yeah, I don't like. You know, one thing I don't like too, the little petty, the backhanded compliments. I don't know if you ever heard somebody. I mean, I don't know if they have, but you know, people. Some people be like, "Oh, I love you. How's your little business doing?" Like that's a
Yeah,
backhanded compliment.
yeah,
Like those
yeah,
little, you know, like be
yeah.
genuine. You don't have to be with the back. You know, the little thing in there. It's back. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. Maybe to some people it might not be, but it is a backhanded compliment. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
It is
I'm just
true.
saying.
It is true.
It
Okay,
says
so who else do
here.
we have?
All right,
We
so
have
Candace,
Candace.
yeah, she stated this happens often in the workplace when employees are afraid of the consequences, being victimized, and a lack of job security. I have learned kind of late, but
But nonetheless.
nonetheless, people treat you how you allow them. Set
Oh,
boundaries
yes.
from inception. This is so true.
She's correct. People
She is
treat
so
you how
true.
you allow them to treat you. And that is why they will continue. You know, if you never draw the
Hmm.
line in the sand, if you never call them out, don't wonder why the behavior is continuing. It's because you haven't done anything about it. And they
Yes.
can't read your mind, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. You know, even if I feel like even if the person sometimes you come across people, right, depending who they are, even if you say what bothers you, they might not accept it. And that is okay. Like we're not I'm not here to change your mind because at the end of the day we all grown here. We all adult, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm bringing something forward to you that maybe because sometimes that happens, maybe the person might have not understand what you're trying to say or what you're trying to convey at the moment because it can happen to all of us. But I think
Yeah.
it's time for the person to sit back and try to be understanding. Like, okay, what did I do that made this person feel offended, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the compassion and the empathy part comes in. Even if you don't understand, or understanding, I should say, even if I don't get what you're telling me, right? But let me try to put myself in that person's shoes. Somebody would have said that to me because I get it. We all different, right? We all you're you, I'm me. Everybody has their own way of doing things, a way of thinking. We all different. I get that. But even within our difference, we should still try to be understanding to another person. Even if we don't get it at the second, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But at least make
Mm-hmm.
an effort to understand, you know?
Mm-hmm. I agree.
All right, so
So you have
somebody
to say
said,
hi to our friend Robert. Hi, Robert.
hi,
Gary.
Robert.
Robert says that passive aggressive people drive him crazy.
Yeah,
Yes,
no, they do.
we agree. We
No,
agree.
I agree. I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's right. He
Okay.
hit it right on now.
So, what other comments do you see, Karen?
Let me see. I agree. Tell others that I can
That's
help
from
a person.
Andrea.
Which is true. What she mentioned too, I agree to tell
Mhm.
others that I can help a person who's drowning if I can swim. The hero tends to drown trying to rescue someone when they are not properly equipped to render aid, which is true. This is a
Yeah.
golden
Andrea, that is
topic
deep. I'm
today.
writing that down. I can't help a
Yeah,
person who is drowning if I can't swim.
which is and I think that
That
should
is
be the
really,
key.
yeah,
Yeah,
that is
definitely. She
that
hit
is
that
deep.
right. She hit that right on the nail. But everybody has some great comments. Lack of empathy on the employer parts hurts companies. Hurt
Yeah, hurts
company
company
culture, and
culture.
eventually they lose their best employee, which is true.
Yes, Candice.
I mean,
And
employers don't
another
get that.
Yeah, and another thing about that is that they don't weigh the pros and the cons of a decision. So in your case, Karen, to me, if I was your manager, I would say, you know what? It's less
Excuse me.
in terms of time. It's easier or it makes more business sense to give you a day off, even 2 days off,
Mm-hmm.
handle your business and come back to work
Right.
rather than upset you, not give you the time off, and then you resign. Hiring, replacing somebody takes, bless you, takes
Thank you.
replacing somebody takes so long. You have to advertise that position, you have to interview, you have
Mm-hmm.
to make a choice, then you have to train the person. I'm saying you're talking about what, 3 6 months versus 2 days.
Right.
They could even have given you the 5 days. 5 days
Mm-hmm.
versus 6 months. I don't know, six multiplied by how many days. I don't know how
Right.
many days that is. But I'm
I
saying
agree.
six by 30, you know? So I
I
find
totally
some
agree.
managers or some leaders, they don't weigh the pros against the cons. They're only looking for they want their blood, their sweat, their tears, well, from you. And however you work it, you work it. So I think that's a good point. An employer's
Yeah.
part hurt company culture, and then they lose
No.
their best employees. But then, that's if they even see you as their best employee. I know of a
That.
situation where somebody died recently, and on the day of the funeral, they had the obituary in the newspaper, and on the next page, they had the advertisement for the vacancy for the job. So that was kind of scary, but it only goes to show,
Yeah.
you're
That.
replaceable. You're
Yeah.
replaceable. So you have
Right.
to think of you and defend yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
You
That's
know?
true.
Yeah.
All right, so the last
So
comment that I'm going to bring up is this one, which is
yeah,
OMG. I did post recently about someone calling my business little business, and it was a family member. Listen,
yes. I
honestly,
think
it could
family
come from
members
any.
are the worst.
Listen, they could come from
I'm laughing because
anybody.
you think that, yeah, but you think that your family would be the number one people to support you.
That's not
They
always
are
the
the
case.
ones who will give you the most shit. Oh, how the little business going though? And you look on their face, they tend to think, oh, that little business that ain't gonna make no money.
Wow, I'm
You gonna
sorry
need
to
a
hear
loan
that.
from me just now.
Yeah.
So
No, I hate that little comment. I feel like that's very rude and disrespectful, like to someone
yeah,
who's trying to
yeah.
do something. I mean, listen, in reality, I feel like entrepreneurship journey or trying to make something else, I mean, anybody could do it. But the key is, right? The strongest will survive and the meek will fall apart, But and that's this journey's not easy. I ain't gonna sit here and tell you
I
it's
was
not it's easy.
gonna say, you say
The strongest
entrepreneurship is for anybody, Karen.
I mean,
You need
anybody
to
could do
have
it, Gail.
money.
Anybody
No,
can start.
everybody
No,
cannot do
it
it.
can. Anybody could decide to start a business. But at the
Listen
end of
to
the
me.
day, no,
Uh-huh.
anybody could decide to start a business. That anybody could do it. But
Mm-hmm.
the problem is how strong are you to
Mm.
go through the process? That's why I said the strongest will
Yeah.
survive and the meek will
Do you
fall.
know how many
It's
vitamins
not
you need to
easy.
take when you're an entrepreneur? You need to have a whole case of vitamins, Karen. It is
Yep.
not easy. The
No,
rewards
right.
are great, but it is
Right.
not easy.
No,
It's
I
not easy.
agree. I agree with you. It's not easy, but anybody can start a business if they choose to.
Ah, yes.
Right? Okay, so the last okay, so
Very last comment, which is a very
this is
great,
yeah, this one.
a very great
Karen,
comment.
yeah, when mom was in the hospital, when my mom was in the hospital, my boss did not allow me to care for her, so I resigned. No regret. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I really
Yeah, I'm
am.
sorry, Andrea. We're sorry for your loss. That
Yeah,
and that must have
really.
been tough.
Yeah.
That is
I,
tough. I'm gonna send you long distance hugs, Andrea, because when my mom was diagnosed with
hmm
pancreatic cancer, and there's no cure. So in her last days, she died on the 9th of April, and I got a
Wow.
promotion on the 1st of March, and
Wow.
it involved travel for training and stuff. So I knew I couldn't ask for time off. But that is one of the reasons too sometimes that you become an entrepreneur, where you can control
hmm
your own time. You don't have to ask anybody for time off.
Right.
I mean, I knew with a conscience I couldn't, but it made it even harder to try to juggle when you knew this was your mom's last days, and
hmm
she knew she was going to pass away, over in a matter
Right.
of time. So I can relate, and I can
Right.
understand, Andrea, why you had to resign, because it's hard. And
hmm
your mom is just normally your number one person, your number one
Right.
cheerleader. They're there for you. Even when everybody's talking against you or trying to tear you down, your mom is usually normally always behind you, and she has your
hmm
back. And so I am sorry to hear that, Andrew. But it's, yeah, people don't understand,
Yeah, they
and
don't.
they don't show the empathy. They don't understand the importance of family. And I think another thing too, they don't understand peace of mind. From If you give me the peace of mind to manage my mom and be there for her,
hmm
is different, because then I don't come to work stressed or
Right.
frazzled or not being
Right.
able to function. So allowing your staff to have peace of mind, the ROI on that, you can't. There's no. You can't even put a figure on it. The
Right.
ROI on that is exponential. Let your
Mhm.
staff have peace of mind. Let them do what they want to do. They'll handle their business and still do your work if you let them go. Just let them go and let them handle it. But when you try to control, 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 and talk about policy, 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 sometimes that
Mhm.
backfires. And if you have a manager that's very proud and they don't think they do anything wrong, so Andrea resigned. For
Right.
me, it's like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna lose. I just lost one of my best employee. But no, they say, you know what? She did what she had to do. So it's such a hard road sometimes to navigate. But if I was to give three tips on how to manage, these toxic people that come out of the
Mhm.
woodwork just to stress you, it would be, draw your boundaries. Always draw your boundaries in the sand. Know yourself and know what you want and what you will
Right.
tolerate and what you won't tolerate. Draw that line in the sand. Communicate, call people out. People do things to us because they don't ever think that they're going to be called out. Call
Yeah.
them out, draw your lines in the sand, communicate what that line might be. And what's the most important one of all, Karen?
Love
Love
yourself.
yourself. Love yourself.
That's
Nobody
the
can
tip
love
of the
you.
day.
Nobody can love you more than you can love yourself, or nobody can love you like you can love you. So you
Yes,
gotta
that.
love yourself. You have to
Yes.
love yourself first. Don't leave it for somebody else to love you. Love
Hmm.
yourself. Stand up for yourself, and call Karen. When you
No,
need help, call Karen.
can you check?
Karen loves calling out people. It's like a hobby for her. She does it
No,
very
it's
well.
not a hobby,
It's
girl.
really
No.
good. But I
No, but
want to
no, that is the
thank,
tip of the day. That is a good
yeah, I
tip.
want
That's a
to
good way
thank
to end.
everybody who joined us today. We really appreciate our community and the people who join us every Sunday and participate in the conversation. And Karen is going to tell us we have an exciting guest next week. It's amazing. Karen, you want to tell us a little bit about what's going to happen
Yes.
next week?
Okay, so next week we're gonna have a dynamic young woman. Her name is Tiffany McKinney, and the title of
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow of next week live is gonna be Faith and Fuel: One Woman's Journey to Self-Discovery. I know
Yes.
Tiffany personally. We actually are friends, and the reason why me and Gail, speaking to Gail, we both decided it would be beneficial and be great for her to come on and give her testimony because Tiffany. Listen, her testimony is one that I think and a lot of people could benefit from and learn from, right? Tiffany is a businesswoman. She's I believe she a ordained minister, correct? I believe she's a, yes,
Mm-hmm.
ordained minister.
Mm-hmm.
She has, even she speaks about this herself. She been at one time she couldn't walk. She was the doctors, I should say, consider her she couldn't walk because she obviously she had bariatric surgery, and through the process of that surgery, she learned herself, right? She's still learning herself. She's a chef. Tiffany have a lot. Listen, this Tiffany has a lot of wonderful things going on, and this is someone I think everybody should really tune in next week. She's
Mm-hmm.
gonna give us tips on just her journey. Speak, of course, speaks about her journey, but also give us tips that can help you as a person, things that she had learned about herself through her journey. So I'm excited for next week live. I am
But I
really,
think too,
really
Karen, you forgot one of the most important things is that she teaches us about how people can judge you
day.
harshly
Yes,
without knowing the real you. Because
that is a
remember,
fact.
she wasn't, she's kind of she had a very interesting story, and
Hmm.
people judged her and they didn't really know anything, about her, and they didn't try to help her and stuff. And so it
Right.
is an interesting, very touching story,
Yeah.
and you're gonna enjoy it.
Yeah. Next week is gonna be very. I hope you guys tune in next week to our live, and it do
Mm-hmm.
help you in any way that is meant to help you and bring you forward.
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled. It was. Listen, I miss going live. I enjoyed my time
She
off.
did.
I really did.
She did. She did. I
But
missed it too, but Karen was really going through some serious withdrawal, and we
what?
had to get back. We had to
She
get
was
back.
like,
Yeah,
I
we
don't know
missed it.
anything.
We
I was like,
missed
I
out.
don't know next week.
Yeah, yeah. It was interesting.
But
But
thank
thanks
you.
everybody
Thank you. Yes.
being here. It was great. It is great to be back, and we're really looking forward to not only next Sunday. We have lots of exciting people that are going to be joining us every Sunday for conversations like this, and so make sure you don't miss it yourself, and you spread the word and get as many people to join us as possible.
Yes.
So that's it from me.
For me
Enjoy the
too.
rest of
And
your Sunday,
listen,
people.
yes, we are spiritual beings having a human experience, people. So just love
Yes,
each other and respect
yes.
each
And love
other.
yourself. Love
Oh
yourself.
yes, don't forget that.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.